Good evening and welcome to the City of Woodstock's virtual planning meeting. Tonight's meeting is an open public meeting as required by the Planning Act. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel, and a recording of the meeting will also be posted on the city's website following the meeting. An agenda can be found on the agendas, meetings and minutes page of the city's website under the Inside City Hall heading on the cityofwoodstock.ca homepage. Present here tonight are members of City Council, Deputy City Clerk, City Engineer from Building Official, and also our Senior Planner, of course, with our reports and a few delegates. The public planning meeting is for information and discussion purposes only, as no decision will be made tonight at this meeting. Council will make a decision on these matters at the regular council meeting to be held this Thursday, that's March 17th at 1:30 via Zoom. If you would wish to address council at that meeting as well, you must submit a delegation form to the City Council no later than 2 p.m. on Tuesday. The delegation form is available on the city website, or you can contact the city clerk. Due to the nature of a virtual meeting, the public has been asked to submit a request to speak in advance to allow for pre-meeting tests with the IT department. Those wishing to make a presentation will join our meeting via a Zoom on video, while those wishing to provide comments or answer questions only will call into the meeting via telephone. When recognized by the chair to speak, you must provide your name and address for the public record before giving comments and what your association is to the planning matter. Only the applicant or people who provide oral or written comments regarding the application are entitled to appeal council's decision through the local planning appeal tribunal. Please keep your comments to planning matters only and avoid repeating comments that have already been expressed by others. If you have not provided oral or written comments but wish to receive a formal notice of council's decision on the matter, please contact the clerk's department. The notice will provide further information on appealing the decision. The county's planner will be asked to present the planning report for each of the 3 applications on tonight's agenda. City council members may ask questions to the planner, and then the applicant or representatives of the applicant will then be provided an opportunity to make their comments, provided by those wishing to speak in favor of the application, and then followed by those who want to speak in opposition of the application, if any. Prior to proceeding with the first application, does anyone wish to declare a pecuniary interest on any items that are on tonight's agenda? I wouldn't believe there are any. So we'll go to the electronic meeting planning agenda for March 14th, 2022. Our meeting for 7 p.m. Or as I mentioned, there's 3 items on the agenda. The first one is 2A, and it's the applicant proposes to rezone the subject lands from special local commercial zone C19 to a special residential zone 3, which is R3-SP, and the address is 1185 and 1201 Devonshire Avenue in the city of Woodstock. As we welcome Andrea Hackler, our senior planner from the County of Oxford, to give her presentation.
Thank you. So this first application tonight for council is an application for official plan amendment and zone change, and the applicant is proposing to redesignate subject lands from a low density residential designation to medium density residential, and also, as Councillor Scheinberg pointed out, to rezone the subject lands from a special local commercial zone to a special residential zone, residential zone 3, and that would accommodate the development of 26 townhouse units on the subject lands. The site-specific zoning will seek to amend, or will seek for special provisions relating to minimum lot area, maximum lot coverage, minimum rear yard depth, minimum parking area setback, and to permit parking in the front yard. And then just because I have the site plan up here, just to be clear, the front yard is the lands adjacent to Lansdowne Avenue. And so that's why the applicant is proposing to, is requesting to have parking in the front yard. So this application, I actually should apologize. I noted in my report that it was 2-story townhouses, but there's also 3-story townhouses. So the 3 stories are on the north side of the property, and the 2 stories are on the south side, adjacent to Devonshire Avenue. The property is about 1.6 acres in size, and at this point in time, there is a single detached dwelling that is quite dilapidated. It's boarded up and it's no longer habitable. So if the application is approved, the applicant will be removing that dwelling. Council may recall that this application has been through several other applications over the course of probably the last decade or 2 decades. There's been it's gone back and forth between commercial and residential. At this point in time, obviously, the applicant feels that the best use of the land is for residential purposes, as the last use allowed for a number of local commercial, or sorry, the last zone that was placed on this property was for a number of local commercial type uses. And I believe, if I recall correctly, that the applicant at the time was proposing a clinic of sorts and then a number of other commercial type uses. However, I should note that the underlying designation is low density residential. And so in the, just for council's information quickly, in the low density designation, there are provisions that allow for local commercial type uses. However, this proposal will be proposing to redesignate them from low density to medium density. And strictly because of the number of units that are being proposed, the application is proposing approximately 16 units per acre, whereas the low density residential caps out at 12 units per acre, and the medium density is 30 units per acre. So the applicant is proposing to a number of units that it would be on the lower side of the medium density designation. The application was circulated to a number of agencies. The various agencies were supportive of the application. They felt that it was a good use of the lands. There's a mix of uses in the area. There's institutional uses, residential uses, low and medium in the area. As you can see, there are townhouses over here, there's semis over here, and then singles, and then a church over directly north. And so there's a real mix in the area. And then as you know, in Devonshire, there's commercial uses up and down as well. So the application, in our opinion, promotes intensification. It's promoting the redevelopment of an underutilized site that's been vacant for has not been in use for many years. We feel that the townhouses are sensitive to the neighboring properties and they are compatible with the area. They're consistent with the character. The application also, we feel, is we feel that it's appropriate to provide medium, or to have medium density on Devonshire, because it's an arterial road which is designed for higher amounts of traffic. In fact, county and city staff did not feel that a traffic impact study was warranted based on the location of the proposal, in addition to the fact that the number of units is only 26 units, so it doesn't generate enough trips to trigger a traffic impact, the need for a traffic impact study. Also, the property is in a location where it has access to a number of different amenities and is located adjacent to a public transit stop. We also feel that the site, although the applicant is requesting relief from a number of provisions in the zoning bylaw, we feel that the site is large enough to provide adequate setback screening and or buffering. The proposal is in keeping with the required amount of parking for the area. The applicant is proposing parking spaces for each unit, as well as a garage for each unit, and then they're also proposing visitor parking spaces. So there are a number of, I should point out too, council did receive a letter from a neighboring property owner. It's the property owner immediately east of the subject lands. We received it about 20 minutes ago, so staff really hasn't had an opportunity to go through all the questions and the comments. However, there were comments relating to privacy, I believe, and snow storage, lighting, those types of things. Generally speaking, and also fencing, those types of things have not been established at this point in time. Those are generally finer details that we work through the site plan approval process. that said staff are satisfied that there is adequate space to allow for fencing, buffering, landscaping, those types of things, as well as snow storage. And so we will be addressing those things through the site plan approval process. I can also point out, in light of that, those comments that we did receive, that the applicant is proposing to provide trees, or is proposing to maintain the hedge along the eastern side. And those were based on comments that came through from the Parks Department. And so the applicant did redesign the site slightly so that they could maintain that hedge, which will likely be favorable to the neighboring property owner that has concerns relating to privacy. So in light of our review, we are satisfied that this application can be supported.
Thank our senior planner, Andrea Hackler, for her report. At this point in time, I just want to point out that we do have a delegation here to represent the developer. So any questions coming from council, either to the senior planner, but first to the senior planner and then later to the delegation. Any questions to for Andrea Hackler on this proposal from anyone of council? Go ahead, Acting Mayor Connie Lauder.
Thank you. And maybe this would be more to the owner, the planner, but through to our planner. I'm just wondering about, I'm concerned about the parking, because there says only 6 spots extra for parking, and there isn't any other parking short of parking in the church park lot. And I don't know as they would look at that very favorably. So I'm not sure who would want to answer that at this time. And my other question was snow removal. It's just one road in and out. And so I have a concern about that. So again, I'm not sure who wants to answer that, or if you want to wait until the other person speaks.
I'm actually going to through Councillor Schadenberg to Councillor Lauder's question. I would suggest that Craig Wallace, the city's chief building official, respond to those questions.
At this point, any further comments from council? Craig Wallace, you were going to answer snow removal question.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Councillor, through your question through the chairman, you had a question about parking. The site is providing 2 parking spaces per unit. That is the minimum requirement of the zoning bylaw. And the site's providing 6 visitor parking spaces, which is also a requirement of the zoning bylaw. So under zoning, we can't ask them for more parking. And as for snow removal is usually looked at through the site plan process. Typically, we look for site storage areas on site. And if there is no areas for the snow storage, we will put a clause in the site plan agreement that states that the snow shall be removed from the site. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask one more
Go ahead, Connie.
question through to Craig? What about the garbage collection? I don't imagine that the truck would be able to go in there. Will there be a bin, or how is that going to be taken care of? Or can this be part of this questioning here?
Mr. Chairman, through to the question to the councillor, typically that's again done, those questions are asked through site plan. The developer usually has an option of providing his own private service, usually maybe through a bin system. Again, that bin would be located appropriately on the site through site plan, or there can be arrangements that the city will pick it up at the curb. You are correct, the city's trucks would not be entering private property. Thank you.
Any further questions for Craig Wallace from our building department? Go ahead, Todd Petter. Councillor Petter.
Yeah, through Mark to Andrea or the developer, whoever wants to answer this. I was just wondering, looking at the laneway coming in off Devonshire, was there any consideration ever given to an exit on Lansdowne, having 2 ways in or 2 ways out, or one way in and a separate way out?
Through the chair to Councillor Petter's question, I believe this, the entrance was discussed at length. And it was decided that there'd be the single entrance at Devonshire. It's, Devonshire is a county road, and so that was determined by county staff, probably in collaboration with the applicant. You'll see that the entrance is proposed as far east as it can possibly go, and that's just basically to stay away from the intersection. And so I suspect that's also why they didn't want a second entrance onto Lansdowne. It's just strictly to keep the intersection from getting congested.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else for our planner or the building department from Councillor? Did you have another question, Connie? You've got the
Yes.
floor.
Yes, okay, thank you. Through the chair to, I guess it would be Andrea, unless it's the developer. I'm just wondering, the entrance and exit, how close, approximately, how close is that to the neighboring property? And is there going to be very much green space there at all with this proposal?
Through the chair to Councillor Louder's question, I'll just share my screen here for a second, and then I think that the applicant can speak a little bit further when it is her turn to speak. I should point out, though, again, this is the landscaping would obviously be addressed through the site plan approval process, right? And as I did state, that hedge would be maintained between the two properties. So I can just show you that it appears that there's about I think it says 5.8 meters. I can't really zoom in on this, but looks like there's about 5.8 meters between the access and the neighboring property. And it looks like she has a U-shaped driveway. So the driveways would be probably about 6 meters apart or so.
Thank you.
I'm guessing no further questions for our planner or for Craig Wallace from the building office. Therefore, we'll introduce at this point in time our delegation, Astrid Close. And if Astrid could please identify, I guess you don't have to spell your last name. We know how to spell your last name, but who you represent and if you're the actual developer or just a consultant for the developer.
Good evening. Yeah, my name's Astrid Claus. I'm a planning consultant and I'm here on behalf of the owner of the property. And happy to be here in support of the staff recommendation to approve these applications. I would like to just make a few comments, and I think I can provide some comfort regarding some of the comments that were received from the neighbor next door just before this meeting. I've had a chance to review them, and before I do that, though, I think I'd like to just hit on a few of the items that were raised quickly. There is a commercial zoning on the property today. There is also a commercial site plan that has been approved, and council will recall, as Andrea mentioned, there had been a request for some additional commercial uses. It's been a challenging site for this owner to find commercial tenants. And he has come to the conclusion that residential is a better fit for this site, and therefore this application has been submitted. Originally, the application did include 27 townhouse units, and staff asked that be reduced to 26 to be able to provide more space between the abutting home and the proposed development. So, and that was accommodated. I would also mention that the earlier submission did have 2 access points to the property. And Andrea is correct, the one access would have been too close to the intersection. And we were asked to remove that. And so that's why you see the one access point to the site in the current proposal. So I think if I could, I would just like to go through the comments provided from the neighbor just briefly. So the first item mentions 1 car per driveway. And as we've heard, there are actually 2 parking spaces, 1 driveway space, 1 garage parking space per unit. So 2 per unit plus the 6 visitor parking spaces, which is in compliance with the zoning. So for 26 units, there are 58 parking spaces provided on site. As I mentioned, the commercial plaza did have a driveway that would have been in the same location. I think that this residential driveway that has been moved further from the abutting property line will be less busy, less noisy than the commercial plaza that could be constructed on the site. And I think the residential will be more compatible for that neighbor than the commercial that was proposed. And that leads to the next point about lighting. So commercial does tend to have more intensive lighting requirements. However, as mentioned, this will go through the site plan process. There will be a lighting plan. Light is not permitted to spill onto an abutting property. And so staff would be looking at that and approving a lighting plan to make sure that does not happen. With respect to the existing trees, the owner has had a number of conversations with the owner next door. And yes, those trees along the boundary, those hedge trees will be retained, and the grading has all been redone to ensure that those trees will not be impacted and they will be retained at the boundary and act as a buffer to for the 2 properties. And snow removal is something, that's her next point, that is dealt with at site plan. So either snow storage areas are shown to the satisfaction of the city, or there will be a requirement to remove snow from the site. And garbage, this will be a condominium, and there are rules in the declaration and the condo declaration. So the garbage is not going to be allowed to, spill and sit around, and that's not the kind of thing that would be tolerated on a condominium site. The question, or I guess the comment about traffic flow, residential will generate less traffic than the commercial plaza that could locate on the property today. And the fence requirement, that will be looked at through site plan, and a fence will be provided to meet the city's requirements. It will be a condominium, and there is 1 unit that is next to this existing home, and it has a 6.4 meter setback at the closest point. And that is an enhanced setback from the original proposal. Again, the staff wanted us to make sure that there was going to be green space and a setback for that abutting neighbor. The 3-story units, so there's a combination of 2 and 3-story units. 3-story units are permitted in the current official plan designation. There will be a privacy fence provided. And I think that covers the comments, but I'm certainly open to respond to any questions as well. And thank you for the opportunity to present.
Anyone from council have any questions or concerns for the planning consultant? Go ahead, Councilor Accioni.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair to Ms. Claus, thank you for the presentation and being here, of course. I'm excited to see something happen with this property. Let me be clear, I really, really am. I do have some concerns with parking and snow removal and garbage, as everybody has talked about, and I trust that will be addressed through city when the planning comes to that. But you mentioned the fence. Is that going to be along the church as well as the neighbor? Is that whole property, basically the two sides, going to be fenced?
That's right, correct.
Okay. And the units themselves, are they going to be sold or are they rentals?
They will be condominiums, so they will be sold and owned. Having said that, no one can ever stop someone from renting a
Correct,
unit,
yes.
but it will be in condominium ownership.
As part of a condo corp, they will be individual for sale.
Yes.
And I guess the rest of the stuff was addressed. So thank you very much.
Anyone else with comments for our planning consultant? Doesn't appear to be any at this point in time. And just a reminder, there will be no decisions made at this meeting here today. Just wanted to see if there's anybody registered to speak in favor of this planning project. I don't believe there was anyone registered to speak in favor of it. Anyone registered to speak against this planning report? As has been talked about, there is a letter that was circulated just late this afternoon on this matter. So it'll certainly be circulated one more time before council on Thursday for any comments that specifically were related to this planning procedure as well. And again, I've mentioned before as I chaired these meetings that if you'd like to make any comments on any planning item whatsoever and you don't feel comfortable being a public speaker, then by all means sit down and write a few pages, a couple of pages items on what you feel would be either good or bad or indifferently about that project. And as I mentioned before, there'll be nothing decided upon at this meeting here today. This does go forward to City Council agenda on Thursday. That's the 17th of March. The meeting's at 1:30 in the afternoon, and you can still register to be a delegate at that meeting if you contact the clerk's office tomorrow. The next item on the agenda, 2B, is application for official plan amendment, draft plan of subdivision and zone change. The applicant is Sierra Construction of Woodstock, and the address is 763 Athlon Avenue. As we invite our senior planner in one more time, Andrea Hackler, to describe what this plan is all about.
Thank you. So this is an application for official plan amendment, draft plan of subdivision approval, and zone change. And as Councilor Schadenberg pointed out, it's for lands located at 763 Athlone Avenue. The lands front onto Juliana, are bound by Juliana as well as Athlone. The former use on the subject lands, as council and the public likely recall, it was a former gravel pit, and the pit license on that property was closed in 2009. However, I believe that the applicant indicated that it has not been in use since the 80s. So as everyone is aware, this site has a significant slope to it. The lands are designated for business park, industrial type uses. However, the applicant has indicated that it would be quite challenging to establish industrial type uses on this site based on the slope. And so because of that, the applicant is proposing the official plan amendment, draft plan of subdivision, and zone change on the property to introduce a draft plan of subdivision that would consist of 6 blocks. So there's a park block, there's a large residential block, and then there are 3 industrial blocks, which will maintain the business park designation. There's 1 municipal street that's being proposed, as well as a stormwater management block. And so I'm just going to, this is a bit tricky to see. So I'm just gonna, there's a concept plan here too that's a bit easier to see. And so within that draft plan of subdivision, this is a concept plan that the applicant has submitted to staff, and it shows a 4-story apartment building being proposed along the westerly side, and then again the park block, 2 6-story apartment buildings being proposed adjacent to Juliana, and then there are 3 The concept plan says 10 stories, but there is some confusion about the interpretation of height, and based on the slope, the building will actually in fact be 12 stories. And so I have the report does analyze the 12 stories. And so the applicant is requesting that there be a 12-story height increase for these, to allow these buildings. And then on the business park blocks, the applicant has already constructed one office building on this property, and they constructed it, they received site plan approval, and they constructed it on the basis that these would be the lot lines. And so it meets all of the relevant setbacks and lot coverage and whatever else for this property. And so this is the Hydro One call center, if people are familiar with that. And then they're also showing that a 4-story hotel is being proposed, and then as well as a 2-story medical office. That being said, it should be noted that these lands are being zoned a special business park zone. And so all of the business park uses will be permitted. So in the event that the 4-story hotel doesn't go through, perhaps another business park type use would be established on the site, and same with the medical office. And so the applicant has provided these conceptually, but those could always be subject to change too. I'm not sure if they've secured tenants at this point in time. And then the stormwater management block, as well as the park block, would be dedicated to the city at the time when they're both ready to be dedicated. And this would be a community park. There's not, we're excited to be able to introduce this park to this area, as this whole area on Champlain does not have access to a park that would be safe on the same side of the street. So we're happy that the neighborhood could have access to that park, and it's quite sizable park. It's 1.5 acres. So the zone change, so I should say that overall the total number of residential units that are being proposed are 552. The overall size of the property is 27.88 acres. And again, there will be 6 different blocks on the property. And then with respect to the zone change, the applicant is proposing to increase the height of the apartment buildings from 8 stories to 12 stories. And then they're also looking to reduce the exterior side yard along, so basically they're looking to reduce the setback along Juliana Drive from 12 meters to 4.8 meters. So the subject lands are located in an area that is populated by a whole mix of uses. I'll just go back here. So as you can see, there's a St. Mary's Catholic School, there's Fanshawe Golf Hall, there's a sports complex or a sports field here, there's a church down here, there's traditional industrial type uses down here, and then there's the former golf course over here, and then along, if you follow Juliana, you'll get to the Norwich Ave regional commercial node. And then just there's some lower density to the immediate west and to the north. And so there's a whole mix of uses. And so based on that, we felt that the level of compatibility so the proposed, this is similar to the last discussion that we had with the last application, but similarly, the current zoning and designation allows for business park industrial type uses on the entire parcel. And so we believe that from a compatibility standpoint, it's a good transition to go from the traditional industrial type uses, which can have louder noise, like they can generate noise, odors, vibrations, whatnot. And so there would be the business park blocks that would act as a buffer to the residential, and then these business park uses are being proposed more on the tablelands, whereas the slope is in here, and so then that's why the applicant's proposing the higher density development in here, and then towards the outskirts they're proposing the lower density being medium density, and so I think I actually have a sketch of that too. And so we felt that that was a good transition from the heavier industrial to the lower density. And then this area that's designated lower density, we do feel that it's compatible. We do feel that the slope will not impact, will help with sort of the imposition of higher and medium density development. And then this building here is only being proposed at 4 stories, which is generally not doesn't pose as much of a compatibility issue with lower residential use, lower density residential uses. There are a number of check marks that we had to check off for this development. Because we're taking lands out of employment uses and we're putting them into residential. We had to look at the phase 1 comprehensive review, which council will be familiar with. We talked about it at the last meeting with respect to the Southeast Woodstock secondary plan. So although there is, the comprehensive review has shown that there is a shortage of industrial lands, the city did just undertake the official plan amendment and the secondary plan to introduce new industrial lands into the city. And then also, in addition to that, we would note that these lands, as I noted earlier, are not very conducive to industrial type uses. And so, in fact, we would recommend that these lands would come out of the vacant land inventory for industrial purposes. In addition to that, it's noted in the report that the residential, we also are in need of, the city is also in high need of residential land as well. And so I believe that the overall forecasted growth requires another 790 acres of residential land over the course of the next 25 years. And so we felt that it would be appropriate if we can accommodate residential uses on these lands, that this would be an appropriate use for them. In addition to that, we feel that the proposal is introducing a mix of units and variety in housing to this area and also to the city. We feel that it is generally compatible with the area. The number of units being proposed for the medium and high density are consistent with those in the designations of within the county official plan. We feel that the height increases, as I indicated, would be compatible for the area. We will be requiring the applicant to provide a shadow study at the time of site plan to ensure that no neighboring properties that there's shadowing that's occurring longer than the industry standards. And then the applicant should also be aware that in light of that, we may not support certain heights of buildings if the shadowing does not work out for the site. And traffic impact study was provided, and a noise impact study, as well as a functional servicing report. The traffic impact study and noise impact study are both under peer review, so they're both going back and forth. So we've included conditions of the draft approval that those peer reviews be completed and that the recommendations be implemented at the time of, or prior to the time of registration. We are supportive of the zoning that the applicant has requested. There are a number of 6 specific provisions that the applicant has requested, and they're requesting 6 specific provisions for the various blocks. And so we would be recommending that each of these blocks have their own separate zoning. We're also recommending that the block here for the medium density, that it have its own R4 special zoning to ensure that we can make sure that there's the 4-story, that this building does not exceed 4 stories, and these 2 buildings do not exceed the 6 stories, as opposed to giving a blanket zone for the entire block. The park block will be zoned open space 2, which will allow for active use of the site. And then the stormwater management block, we're recommending be zoned open space 1, which is a passive recreational space, which basically reflects the stormwater management facility. So in light of our review, I should also point out that we did receive a number of comments. I apologize, I almost overlooked that, from neighboring property owners I believe that the majority of the property owners are located on Champlain Avenue and they back onto the subject property, their rear yards do. And generally their concerns were related to privacy, traffic, as well as road safety, drainage, and slope stability. And so with respect to the traffic that was being reviewed for the traffic impact study, drainage will be addressed later in more detail. They did do a review of the drainage through the functional servicing report, but a more detailed plan will be provided in the future, as well as through site plan. We will ensure that the drainage is works for the site. And I believe with respect to slope stability, I will let the applicant speak to that because they have spent a significant amount of time on that. So in light of that, we would recommend that these applications also be approved.
Thanks a lot for our report from our senior planner, Andrea Hackler. I see that Councillor Todd Petter's already waving his hand in the air. So Todd, you can have the floor first to ask a question to our planner or to the our building official, Craig Wallace.
Yes, thanks, Mark. Through the chair to Andrea. Andrea, did I get that? Did I hear you right? That if you're on the top side of the hill looking at the high rise, it would be 10-story. And if you're looking from the bottom of the hill looking up, it would be 12 stories. Is there that much of a grade there that you bury 2 stories? Andrea, you don't want to answer this?
Is Andrea frozen in time, maybe? I don't know about your screen, but my screen, she was frozen a couple of times during her presentation. Maybe that's a question also that the developers, we have 2 members of Sierra Construction that are with us tonight, Todd, so they'll probably be able to answer that question for us when we get there. Is Andrea available?
Good enough. Looks like she's off the screen.
Yes. Any other questions or comments from members of council? Like I say, I'm sure Todd's question will be able to be answered by our developers from Sierra Construction. Connie Lauder, go ahead, Acting Mayor.
Thank you. Through to probably will be the developers. I don't know if I heard Andrea correctly, but is the hotel going to be removed or they're building up to the motel? Did you catch that about, maybe Stephen is there, maybe he can answer that question.
Yeah, Steve Cornwall from Sierra, you can go and answer that question, Stephen.
Sure. Getting a little ahead, I suppose, but yeah, I'm here as the planner for this application. I work for Sierra Construction. The owner of the property is also here as well, and he'll be able to answer questions, and he's got a few things to say as well. But just to kind of explain first to Councillor Potter's question about the relative size of these buildings, there was, I think what Andrea was trying to describe was we did have some confusion where on the plans I submitted, I labeled the buildings as 10 stories because they were 10 stories of apartments over 2 stories of parking facilities. Whereas that's obviously 12 stories total. So those are for the 3 buildings that are at the bottom of the slope. So the slope is actually about 65 feet high. So that is actually going to change the view of the site from the areas at the top, right? It slopes up to the houses at Champlain. There's a level area in behind those, a fairly level, and that's where we're proposing the 4-story building. As the slope comes down on Juliana, that's where we've got 2 6-story units proposed. And after providing this long-winded answer, I actually forget Councillor Lauder's question. Would you mind repeating?
Yes, I just wondered, and I'm not sure, but if I caught Andrea correct or not, does the hotel, that's the present hotel that's there, motel, I should say. Is that going to be removed and is just the one building left, or they'll be building up to the present motel?
Yeah, the subject site doesn't include the existing hotel.
Okay.
It does include the new Hydro One building that's right next to it. And we do have a proposal for a new 4-story hotel that would be on the other side of the Hydro One building.
Okay, so the current hotel will still remain there then? Does
That's
it?
right.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any further questions therefore for our planner or for building official for the city of Woodstock or County of Oxford? Maybe at this point in time, therefore, I will introduce our 2 delegations representing we have already heard from Stephen Cornwall from Sierra Construction, but at this point we can also welcome in Sierra Construction owner Cliff Zalewski. And anything you 2 gentlemen wanted to say about this plan?
Yes, I mean, I will keep my comments brief because Andrea's report was quite thorough, and in general, we are very pleased with the contents of the report and the recommendation, of course. Just a reminder that this site was, until recently, I mean, a little over a decade, it's been closed as a aggregate extraction site, and so it's we're very pleased to bring this proposal forward to show how this kind of large property surrounding all the more recent development at the south end of Woodstock could be transformed into something to kind of fill in that empty space left by that aggregate facility. So just a few things I guess I would like to speak to. It would make sense to try and address more directly some of the concerns of the neighbors that they've emailed about. And I do have a new drawing that I'll be able to share with the committee to have a look at. We've put together a 3D drawing showing a little bit better some of the relationships with these building heights. I can just, yeah, I think that should work. Are people able to see that then? So what we've got is, well, Andrea went over all of the buildings involved, but I don't think it would hurt to go over again. This is the existing hotel that's not part of this proposal. This is the medical center, or sorry, this is the Hydro One building that's complete. This is the concept for a new hotel, new public road here that we're proposing, a little cul-de-sac next to medical center with the stormwater pond in behind. So we have the 3 taller towers at the base of the hill. And so, yep, 2 stories of parking built into the foot of the hill. So the front of those parking areas would be exposed, but the back would be right into the side of the slope, and will assist with slope stability issues. So then we've got these 2 6-stories lining Juliana, and the 4-story that we've been able to kind of squeeze in behind the new park that's proposed. So this drawing, I'm hoping, can kind of see a little bit better how we've got these smaller 6-story buildings next to the wide Juliana right of way, using that to buffer these buildings from the existing low density residential neighborhood to the north. And likewise, we've kept this building to just 4 stories. And to that, I do comment, like there are municipalities in the regions, the larger cities like Brantford and Kitchener and London, where they've got these urban design documents specific to these sorts of residential developments. And they do like to use what if I could call it a tendency to use this, what they call an angular plane analysis, where they will take the lot line from like the nearest low density residential lot, and then they'll say like the maximum height You can be in an area close to that is, if you can picture a 45-degree angle up from that point to the proposed building. So what you get is a building that's as tall as it is far away from that lot line, with the 45 degrees. And that's something that we've actually met with this proposal, where we've got the 6 stories. They're about that distance and height from the other side of Juliana, and likewise with the 4 stories and the property line there. And just in terms of slope stability, part of that is actually the explanation for why we are looking to position these 6-story buildings so close to Juliana. With this having been a former aggregate extraction site, this is actually where you've got the most stable soil between the bottom of the hill, where there's that's basically the depth of the extraction, but the top of the hill is covered with fill and tailings from all that activity, so it's a little less stable. The most stable areas are the ones where there wasn't so much extraction, and that's the area of the site that's closer to Juliana. So being able to position buildings there is ideal from that sense. It also meets newly popular urban design considerations for trying to make these larger streets more have a friendlier feel, more eyes on the street, establishing a little bit of a streetscape environment where we're using these units to make it feel a little bit more closed in and friendly. Right now, especially in winter time, that street is quite windy and barren, and you feel exposed out there. So hopefully with this development and with all of the improvements that come with it, we can kind of change that atmosphere for Juliana a little bit. And then just small things like, as I mentioned, we're trying to actually use these buildings to strengthen the slope. We're, of course, very concerned. We wouldn't want to be proposing new buildings on unstable soil that was going to collapse or anything. So we have had engineering reviews of our proposal, and we will need to have more detailed work done as part of the site plan process that lies ahead for this, the residential portion of this development. That will also similarly ensure that there's no drainage issues that would see anybody's backyard flooded or anything like that. That would be virtually impossible with all the steps where we've got to go through and make sure things are planned properly. And just a little thing just to avoid any confusion, like we've got a driveway connection snaking through all of the residential development that's intended to both serve to help the residents of these different buildings still feel integrated as part of a larger development, but it doubles as well as a fire route, so that emergency vehicles can go all the way through the site if they need to, and have 2 different access points. There is a 3rd access right next to some of the backyards on Champlain there. That's actually only for emergency vehicles, but it will double as a sidewalk for pedestrians. So it's right next to the park. So anybody wanting to use that, it would be mostly, obviously, I think residents of that building that would be using it as a sidewalk, but it isn't anything to do with traffic next to those buildings. The final concern, there was a gentleman email from an address on Ferguson, and so he was concerned about how close the buildings were, but also about traffic, and particularly about an increase of traffic on Ferguson. And to that, like, we do have this traffic impact study that was submitted with this, showing how this development can be accommodated without and can respond to the existing road network in the area so that everything functions properly. We did, through the course of things, in our view, justify 2 different driveway locations onto Juliana. And the current one that was on all of our concept drawings would line up across from the driveway going into St. Mary's High School. But we do have another location justified as in terms of its visibility that would line up directly across from Ferguson. So, I mean, our view is between the two, not only does this one work well for our internal design in terms of where we would like to see these buildings located, but it should reduce a little bit of the cut through on Ferguson. I mean, anytime you've got a site that's vacant and it's going to have development on it, whatever the development is going to generate new traffic. So there is going to be more traffic on Ferguson than there used to be. But we feel with our professionals and our reporting and dealing with staff that we do have it accounted for, so that we won't be causing problems for people. That really kind of covers off all the points that I wanted to hit. I know Cliff as well has some thoughts on things, and we will both be able to respond to further questions and comments. So thanks.
Thanks a lot to Stephen Cornwall. I guess at this point in time, Cliff Zalewski, you can speak about your project here. And then we'll ask the councilors if they have any questions either for yourself or for Mr. Cornwall.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Mark. You can hear me okay? Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to thank council and everything for taking the time on this. Yeah, we've been working on this concept since 2016, actually, and then I think it was 2018 we put our full submission into the Canada County. So it's been on the books for a while. And one of our early meetings that we had, I remember one of the county planners mentioned that this site was a hole in the donut, and it actually describes it pretty good, because within the city limits, we have an old gravel pit with a lot of challenges on it, and it's not an easy site by any means to try to develop. So we've been working on it for quite a while. And as you know, like I think Andrew mentioned too, this was an old gravel pit since the mid 1900s. Definitely an eyesore. It was owned by Kenny Marshall back in the day. And I think, you know, he used to have a construction company all around Woodstock and the surrounding area. So we took the license off in 2009, the aggregate extraction. And that's when we built the Best Western Hotel on the one end. And now we're trying to develop the rest of it there. So as Steve mentioned, it's a very challenging site. Like we got from the top of the slope to the bottom, we have about 60 feet of grade difference. And there's been a lot of fill dumped in over the years on this site. So we still have a lot of work to do with some more studies on our bank stabilization, hydrology studies. So we still record of site condition. So we still have several studies to do. And one of the ideas of putting them taller buildings, like right at the base of the slope, was to put, we have 2 levels of parking garage under each building. And that's to act as some bank stabilization on that slope. So that will assist in that. And that's why we have the 2 levels of parking garage on there to help on that. So, and also with them buildings being at the toe of slope and that 60-foot embankment, they're not going to be overpowering to anything. They're going to kind of fit into that slope. And I think we feel with building that slope up a little bit, we'll be able to create some park-like settings with some, you know, interior walking trails with some armor stone. We'll be able to step that slope a bit, and the whole thing will be done as a condominium project. So we can, you know, we can build reserve funds and have that thing maintained properly over the years. So that was kind of our idea, was to try to utilize some of that slope into some, you know, walking areas. So as we're doing this, like the highest and best use, and I think Andrea mentioned this too, is probably for a residential use. If we can't use it for a residential use, it's going to be next to impossible to try to do any industrial or commercial on this section of the property with the extreme grade change on it. So this is our proposal. We've been working on it, and we just hope that maybe council will help us consider this. Thanks again for the opportunity.
I thank Mr. Zaluski for his comments. Are there any questions or comments for our two planners here today, two delegates from anyone on council? Seeing none, I do know we've got a couple of other delegations, so to speak, that want to speak. I'm guessing against the project, depending on where they are neighborhood-wise, but they can certainly introduce themselves and then speak about it. First, the delegation would be Sonia Asif, if she could speak at this point in time. She has a prepared statement or would like to say something. I see that Sonia's name is still online here. Is there a connectivity problem?
Hello, yes.
Go ahead, Sonia. You've got the floor.
Yeah, I'm having only the issue of privacy that at the back there is a privacy issue, like, so that's my concern.
Are you a resident therefore of Champlain Avenue on the other side of the complex, or where do you reside?
Yeah, I'm on 431 Champlain Avenue, like at the back of the third building. The one they are making. The one is 12 floors.
Is there a way to answer that question, either through a planner or through Mr. Cornwall and Mr. Zaluski on that? Because I know you've talked lots about the elevation changes to sort of say where the 12-story building is versus a 4-story building. That's backing on to, I believe that is
Yeah.
Champlain therefore in your plan.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd be happy to answer that, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the 4-story is the one that's close to the residence on Champlain. It's still about almost 20 meters from the lot line. I mean, it's a very big site, so it still looks quite close on the 3D plan I was showing. But the larger buildings, the ones that are 12 stories, are at the base of the slope. That's where the bottom of the building is. So from the residence on Champlain, those buildings will generally not even appear to be higher than the 4-story one at the top of the slope. But additionally, what we can do, particularly with that building behind the proposed park, with still a setback from those areas, is we can use the site plan process to plan for appropriate landscaping that would provide some additional screening for the backyards of those residences, so that there isn't such a risk of there being what sometimes called the overlook or loss of privacy impacts, to use the planning terminology, but just for regular terminology, to make it look nicer, and so that there isn't that distinct sight line, a direct sight line into the neighbor's property.
Does that answer your question, Sonia? Any other comments or questions you'd like to make?
No, thank you. That's all.
Thanks for signing up to participate in tonight's planning meeting. We always like to see residents make their comments in person, or as I've said before, you can certainly make written comment to any one of our planning meetings or to the Thursday City Council meeting as well. That would be attached to our agendas. Is there anybody else that would like to speak, as I say, against this application? I don't see any other names up here, and I know our IT department has talked to various people about possibly wanting to speak here tonight. But without seeing any more names, anybody here to speak in favor of the application? That's obviously not one of the delegates. Okay, as I mentioned before, there is no decision being made here tonight at the public planning meeting. This item will appear on the agenda for Thursday, the 17th of March at 1:30, and that meeting for Woodstock City Council will be held via Zoom, of course, and you could also be a delegate at that meeting if you would like to. But to be a delegate, please contact the city clerk's office by 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So we move on to our third and final item on the agenda here tonight, and that's an application for consent and minor variance. Two delegates or two principals are mentioned, Paul and Nancy Chambers, and also Henry and Rena DeRue. And the address in question is 435 Devonshire Avenue. So we'll walk back to our senior planner, Andrea Hackler, to talk about this proposal.
Thank you. So this application is for two severances. It's for a lot addition and then for a subsequent severance. And the intent is to introduce two single detached dwellings to the subject lands. And so as you can see, as Councillor Schadenberg pointed out, the first applicant was Paul and Nancy Chambers, and basically what they're proposing to do is sever lands and add them to the DeRue's property. And then following that lot addition being completed, then another severance would take place, and the applicant is the DeRue owner, and they would be proposing two single detached dwellings on the subject lands. And so the proposal for minor variance is to reduce the minimum lot frontage from 12 meters for an R1 lot to 11.3 meters to accommodate those single detached dwellings. And I'll just scroll down here too, so you can see. So the properties are quite deep. They're 60 meters in depth. And so staff were supportive of reducing that minimum lot frontage from the 12 meters to the 11.3 meters, as there's still ample space on each of the lots with having a 60-meter depth. And then I'll just scroll down a bit further. And so as you can see, once the lot addition has been completed and the proposal for the severance, which would be this B21-99-8, what would happen then would be that the applicant would also be proposing an easement down the center of the two lots, and that's a reciprocating easement to allow for access to each of the lots from Devonshire. And so the applicant is proposing to build two single detached dwellings and then have two detached garages, sort of like carriage house style, to resemble the character of the area. And so those would be to the rear of each of the dwellings. And so that's why they're proposing the shared access. In addition to that, as you know, Devonshire is quite a busy street. It's a county road. And so the fact that they're proposing only a single access as opposed to two accesses for each of the lots is favorable as well to staff. The proposal, aside from, with the exception of the reduction in the lot frontage, the lots are large enough to accommodate each of the dwellings, and as well as meet the relevant setbacks. Ensure that they're not exceeding the lot coverage. They can provide ample parking and as well as landscaping and outdoor amenity space. So we're satisfied with each of those lots based on those reasons. There's access to municipal, sanitary, and water. And we also feel that the lots, Devonshire in general has a real mix of lot sizes, as you can see, and so we're satisfied that that these lots are maintaining the character of the area, and they will be able to construct dwellings that would be consistent with other dwellings in the area. So based on our review, we recommend approval of this application, and we've included a number of conditions, standard conditions that that staff would like to see in advance of each of these lots being created.
Thanks one more time for Andrea Hackler, Senior Planner from the County of Oxford, for her report. Are there any questions for her from members of council? Or questions for Craig Wallace from the Building Department of the City of Woodstock with regards to this proposal? Thought maybe Councillor Petter was coming on screen there for a moment, but I guess not. And this will certainly continue therefore to ask if there's any delegate willing to speak on behalf of this report, but I don't believe anyone is registered to speak as a delegation as part of this report, an owner or a planner or a developer. Didn't believe so. Anyone registered here tonight to speak in favor of this application? I see a hand up. There's Mr. Cornwell. You can go ahead, Mr. Cornwell, if you'd like a comment you'd like to make about this application here on Devonshire Avenue in Woodstock.
Well, sometimes it's a small town. I live at 441 Devonshire. And because I'm here anyways, I may as well say that I'm quite happy to see this kind of creative infilling proposal. So I'm supportive of it.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
That's all.
Anyone else would like to speak on either behalf or in favor or against this proposal? I don't believe so. There's nobody else that registered. And again, as I've mentioned before, there are no decisions being made here tonight at the planning meeting. This is a public planning meeting, but all these three items that were on tonight's agenda will all appear on Thursday City Council meeting agenda for March the 17th at 1:30 in the afternoon. Of course, you can participate in that by letting the city deputy clerk or clerk know by 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon that you'd like to be a delegate and added to the agenda. Otherwise, we will see you all on Thursday at 1:30 for our next city council meeting via Zoom. Thanks for participating and joining in on tonight's planning meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn from one of the councilors?
So moved.
So moved by Councillor Petter, seconded by Councillor Jerry Accioni, and all those in favor.